Hello, 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 and welcome to the I'm Just Saying podcast. Today we have Derrick Reid, comedian extraordinaire, actor. Hello, Derrick. How's everything today?
What's going on? What's going on? What's pop? What's cracking lacking?
I don't know. It's on you today. Listen, for the audience and those who may not know you, why don't you tell them a little bit about yourself?
Well, my name is Derrick Reid. My stage name is Derrick OC Reid. The OC stands for out of control because that's my comedy. I'm out of control. I'm off the hook. Been doing comedy 25 years, acting over 30 years. So I have both realms under my belt, and I'm also a writer. So to me, it's always good to have more than one talent. You know, the more talent you have, the better you have to make it in this industry. And I write my behind off. I act my behind off, and I act a fool on stage. So anybody that see my show know that, like I said, as a comedian, you have to be yourself at all times because the audience can tell if you're not yourself. Acting, you can be somebody else. Comedy, you've got to be yourself on that stage, and that is imperative, people.
So when did you know you wanted to pursue comedy? Like, I'm going after this. This is my dream. This is what I want to do.
I mean, I didn't want to do it. I really didn't want to do it. But, my friends sort of pushed me into it because I was always cracking jokes. I was always a funny kid. I was a fat, chubby kid, by the way. And I had to learn how to, we call play the dozen or snap, because they was always picking on me as a fat kid, all kind of fat jokes. So I had to, I had to deal with that coming up. But as I got older, people were like, man, you're funny, man. You should be a comedian. I'm like, nah, no way. So one day I decided to try it. What I did, I booked two shows. I booked the show at State of New York, and I booked the show at New York Comedy Club. So the first show I did, I had to bring three people. So I brought three people to the show, and I crashed and burned very bad. Horrible the first time on stage. So the reason I was so bad that day is because I'm from the hood. I'm from the ghetto. And the whole audience were yuppie white people. And I'm in there talking about 40 ounces and blunts, and people are raising their hand like, excuse me, what is a blunt? And I'm explaining what a blunt is. So I proceed with the joke. I say, I get the 40 ounce. Somebody raise their hand. What is a 40 ounce? So I'm explaining to what a 40 ounce of beer is. So I got nervous and ran off stage. Now, the only reason I kept doing comedy is because the owner of the comedy club was in stitches. He was crying. He was literally in tears, crying and laughing at me like, you're funny. I'm like, what, are you kidding me? I didn't get one laugh. Nobody laughed at me. He said, yeah, but your facial expressions, when people raise their hand and ask you questions, you should just show your face. He said, you got to come back next week, man. I'm like, man, you out of your mind. What are you smoking crack? What are you drunk or something? He said, you have a natural neck, man. He said, I'm telling you, I've been doing this for years. I own this club. You are a funny dude. So I said, nah, man, I ain't ever doing this again. Now, mind you, I brought three people with me. So on the way home on a train, I have the longest train ride of my life. Oh, you stink. You're no good. Don't quit your day job. Heard it all the way home.
Oh, wow.
So what happened, I had booked myself for another comedy club 2 weeks later. I couldn't cancel because they had me on the flyer. They had a lot of promotions. So I'm like, I'm not going up here. So people had pre-bought tickets. So I'm like, oh man, I got to do something. So what I did, I got a newspaper and I read the newspaper and I wrote some political jokes. Second time on stage, I destroyed that place. I had an absolutely fabulous time and people stood up and clapped. And since that day, I never turned back. Never turned back.
So Derrick, tell me, how long have you been doing comedy?
25 years, 25 long years.
Yeah. And so when did you decide like, okay, I'm going to pursue comedy. I'm going after this dream?
I didn't want it. I actually did not want to do comedy. But like I said, growing up as a kid, I was a fat, chubby kid. So people always crack jokes on me and I had to learn how to snap or play the dozen, what they call play the dozen, snapping. Mm-hmm. Mother jokes and stuff. I had to learn how to snap because people used to pick on me and bother me in the lunchroom. Oh, you fat, you don't need lunch, give me a lunch ticket. You're too heavy. You don't need chocolate milk. You don't need Oreo cookies. Give me your food. And I would have to snap and like sort of defend myself as a young child. So as I got older, my friends started saying, man, you funny, man. You should try stand up. Get out of here. You know, I'm always cracking jokes, always messing around. And they were like, try stand up, man. I'm telling you that's your knack. So I decided to do it one day. I booked myself for 2 comedy clubs. The first one was New York Comedy Club. The second one was Stand Up New York. And I go to stand up. I go to New York Comedy Club. I had to bring 3 people in order to get on stage for 5 minutes. And I brought 3 people, and I get on the stage, and the whole audience is white yuppie people from like Manhattan. And the only black people in the place was me and the 3 people I brought. So I get up on the stage. I'm up there. Hey, how you doing? What's going on? Yeah, I'm from the hood. You know how in the hood, you know, we drink 40 ounces of beer. We smoke blunts. And a white dude raised his hand. He said, excuse me, what's a blunt? So I'm like, oh, all right, this is what you do. We take a cigar, we cut it in half, we dump all the cigar paper out, and we put marijuana in it, and we roll it up, we smoke it. He said, all right, proceed with the joke. We get the weed, now we go get the 40 ounce. Another dude raised his hand. He said, excuse me, what's a 40 ounce? I said, a 40 ounce is a large container of beer. It comes in 40 ounces, and it's usually malt liquor. Because black people drink malt liquor. Okay, proceed with the joke. So now I'm thrown off. My whole rhythm is thrown off. Mm. So now I'm like, what the heck? What was I talking about? And I spent maybe 2 minutes, a blank stare on my face, like trying to figure out what was I talking about. Ran on stage. They clapped for me. I don't know why they clapped, but I ran on stage. I'm like, are these people crazy? So I go in the back. Owner of the club is cracking up. He's like, oh my God, you are freaking hilarious. I'm like, what do you mean I'm hilarious? He said, man, I cannot tell you, the look on your face was priceless. He said, when people start asking questions, you were like, you made all kind of funny gestures with your face. I'm like, dude, I didn't get one laugh. He said, I'm laughing. He said, I like you. He said, you're going to come back next week and do another show for me. Mm-hmm. I'm like, ain't no way in heck I'm coming back here to do no other comedy show. I was horrible. That wasn't the worst part. The worst part of the thing was I had to get on a train with the 3 people I brought, and they talked trash from Manhattan all the way to Queens. I had to hear it. You suck. You're no good. Don't quit your day job. You look so stupid. You look like an idiot. You didn't know what you were doing. The whole ride home, I was like, oh my God, I had to hear it all the way home. So now, mind you, I booked another show at Stand Up New York, which was supposed to be 2 weeks later. So I'm like, I'm not going up there. I'm not going to show up. But people had already bought tickets prior to that. Mm. They had posters and everything, my name and everything on there. And I'm like, oh my God, what do I do? So what I did, I brought a newspaper, I read the paper, and I wrote some political jokes. Second time on stage, I freaking destroyed that place. Never look back on political jokes.
Wow, so, that's good. Yeah. That's a good story. I mean, considering everything that happened. So between that time was how long? Between the time with the people raising their hand and when you really went and killed it?
Well, it was 2 weeks later. So I had 2 weeks to like try to prepare myself. And when I tell you I was a bunch of nerves, but I was more prepared because like I said, you know, this club had white people in it, and you know, white people always like political jokes. They read the paper. So I figured the next show that I was going to do, which was Stand Up New York, if they're all white people, I got political jokes.
Gotcha.
And the second show was mixed. It was a mixed crowd. So they got all of my jokes. And I felt at the second show, I can do this.
Good.
I can do this.
Is that where you maybe learned tailored to your audience, or is that a thing in comedy for stand-up?
Well, I mean, as a young comic, you don't know. Mm-hmm. You know, you figure that if you go to do a show, people are going to be like you in the audience. Like not knowing that you have to read your audience. You have to know your audience. So if you look at any great comedian, before he goes on stage, he'll look out in the audience and see, well, is it more men? Is it more women? Is it young people? Is it old people? And he sort of crafts his routine to fit that crowd. Mm. And not every show is the same. You cannot duplicate. Every show is different. You know, I might do a show tomorrow and kill, and then I go to another show next week. It's a whole different audience. I have to change my whole routine around. Mm. So you have to have comedy that's conducive to your audience. And this is what comedians don't understand. Not every audience is the same. And I learned that the first time on stage, I learned that.
So now, for the young people who want to be comedians, whose family and friends say, "What the heck are you doing?" Or "There's no money in it," or "Go to college or get a trade"? What do you tell them?
I tell all new comedians, get a 9 to 5. Keep a 9 to 5. The average lifespan of a comedian, it takes 20 to 25 years to become famous.
Mm.
That's when you find out who you are. People think, oh, I'm making it in 2 or 3 years. It doesn't happen that way. And right now it's so saturated with comedians. Oh my God, everybody named Mother want to be a comedian. And it's not for everybody. Everybody's not built for this. And my advice to new comedians, write. You must continue to write, because when you write, you evolve. Don't get set on just one routine all the time. You have to evolve into more routines. Go to open mics. Look and learn the game. Look at the people who came before you. And like I said, comedy is like a math problem. It's a premise, setup, punchline. Those are the 3 concepts of comedy. You cannot change that formula. That formula has been since Mom's Mabley, since of Lenny Bruce. You cannot change the formula of a joke. And a lot of people don't want to learn the basics of comedy. And that's one of the basics is you must have a premise, you must have a setup, and you must have a punchline. Those are the 3 concepts that you must learn as a new comedian. Now, you as you progress in comedy, you'll understand that concept. But for somebody to just grab a mic and get on stage, it's not going to happen. You're gonna do very, very bad. I'm telling you. I also tell my mentor comedians, my trick is, if you're a comedian, these people are your friends. Everybody in the audience is your friends, your family. That's how you become comfortable. If you get up there and say, "Oh my God, I don't know these people. They don't know who I am. I gotta be funny," you put pressure on yourself, and you're not gonna do well. So my concept is, everybody's your friend. There's your Uncle Edward. There's your Aunt May. There's your brother. And you feel comfortable. When you're comfortable, then you perform well.
Do you target anyone in the audience? Like, do you pick someone on the left and the right and in the center, or do you just talk out to the crowd?
Well, what you want to do, you want to have eye contact. You want to act like, when people don't know, you want to look at everybody and have eye contact with them. And that makes them feel more comfortable. A lot of New Jack comedians, they'll hold a mic and they'll look down. It's not a good look. You want to look into the eyes of your audience. You want to connect with them. And that's another major thing, connecting with your audience. Like I might do a show with all old people in the audience. So now I know I can talk about old school stuff, like getting beat with a belt, or like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and stuff that related to us as older people. I might get an all young audience, and I have to talk about young stuff, stuff that they relate to. And you want to be relatable to your audience. So I like a mixed audience, because you can go from A, B to C, and everybody can relate. But sometimes you get an all white audience, and if you don't know how to capture that attention, you're going to do bad, very bad. Sometimes these are ghetto audiences. I'm talking about hair weaves and all kind of stuff. You're like, oh my God, it's like I'm in the projects. But you have to relate to them. You know what I mean?
Do you add some explanation when you're talking to, because it doesn't have to just be whites. It could even, you got some uppity black folk. Do you sometimes find that you have to include in the joke an explanation, like once you walk in and find out, okay, they may be black, but they may be uppity?
Well, what I do is I like to get there so early and watch people coming in and see how they talking while they going into the comedy spot. So by the conversation, I can pretty much say, okay, this type of audience, this is going to be tonight. Or like I said, I like a mixed audience, because you can tell a joke that relate to one group, then tell a joke related to another group, and then tell a joke related to another group. So in other words, like, how do you say it? You're relating to every group of people. But the brunt of it is basically everybody laughs. Everybody likes to laugh. It's just with your audience. You got to connect with them. You might have an old dude in the front with no teeth in his mouth. You're like, holy, and you might have to say something about that. might have somebody who comes in with a yellow and green outfit, very loud. You address that. If I see it, you see it, but do it in a funny way where you don't hurt their feelings. You know, I might say, well, oh, goodness, boy, you got an orange and yellow one. Man, you must ain't got no mirrors in your house. You know, or something like that. Or you might have a couple who have the same outfit on. And you might say, oh, ooh, how long y'all been together? Y'all dress alike. And just try to relate to them, but in a funny way, though. Mm-hmm.
So your homework actually doesn't stop just because you wrote the jokes and studied them.
Never stops. I'm 25 years in the game. I never stop. I'm still learning. I'm still learning certain things.
And so, I'm sorry, go ahead.
And see, that's the thing about a lot of comics also. They stop learning. They stop evolving. You have to constantly write. You have to constantly evolve. You know what I mean? Because you can't get too complacent in one routine. Me, myself, I have like three, 4 different routines that I do. And some of the stuff is off the top of the head. I might go into a place and just start talking, making stuff up the top of the head. But that comes with experience, though.
So now you said you do crack jokes on people in the audience.
Absolutely.
So do you think that opens the door for hecklers?
No. What happens is, like, if somebody comes with some weird outfit, you know, we as a comedian, we have to address the issue. Because if I see it, you see it. Then when we talk about it, everybody's like, yeah, you know, he's right. You know, that is a loud color. What are you, Haitian or African? We you know, you address the issue. But you make fun in a way where they don't feel offended. You don't want to offend anybody. You want to make fun with them, but also have a good time.
Yeah, and you hope they have a sense of humor. Because I think about people like Richard Pryor and Red Fox, and they just didn't give a daggone. And it seems like every generation for me, the jokes got harder or more hardcore. And I think about Martin Lawrence on Def Comedy Jam. And I never forget, and I feel so sorry for this girl. I'll never forget, she came in all yellow and he felt a big bird and everything. And the audience fell out. And don't get me wrong, I feel like if you wore it, you probably knew that you were going to get hit. That's just my brain thinking. But I just think about how, you know, some comedians just, like you said, you know, you don't hurt feelings.
Yeah.
But I look at a Martin Lawrence and I don't think that he cares. You know what I mean? I know for a fact Richard Pryor did not care. I heard him say some things about Jesus that I cringed like, oh. So that leads me to my next questions. Where won't you go in telling jokes? Like, what won't you say?
Well, first of all, I believe there's 5 concepts of comedy. You know, I don't like to offend any group of people, period. But to me, it's 5 concepts of comedy: self, family, religion, relationships. Did I say self and self?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I mean, there are some people right nowadays. People are very. I mean, you have to really watch what you say, because certain groups of people will pick at you. They'll be outside the house picking at you with times, because you know people get very offended. I don't talk about gay people. I don't talk about people who have mental problems, stuff like that. I try to stay away from those type of jokes, because some people get very offended very quick, and you will be blackballed for talking about a certain type of people. So I try to keep it, when I talk, I'm gonna do my comment, I keep it self and I keep it relatable. Like I said, there are some jokes I do say that are over the top, but they're over the top in a way where it's like, oh, he's right, and it'll make you think. I talk about how, is this a clean podcast or?
No, get raw. Do you?
Yeah, like I have a joke where I say I'm older gentleman, I'm 50. And a lot of young girls want to date an older guy. And I say, that's good, but I'm 50, we ain't making love all night. That ain't gonna happen. What I do all night is sleep. I give you 15 minutes of funk. I go to sleep. We both go to work tomorrow morning. I ain't calling out sick trying to satisfy you. I'm 50.
So now, you said something that that interests me. It was actually one of my questions. You said that there's, I guess, different types, not so much of jokes, but the people you'll do the family, you'll crack jokes on. I can't even remember everything that you said, but that raised the question that I had earlier, which is, what are there different styles of stand up?
Absolutely.
Okay. What are those styles?
You have some people who tell jokes. You got some people who talk about real life. You got some people who just go up and clown and just a funny looking and then just clown through a routine. From my perspective, I think best comedy is talking about self in real life situations. Mm-hmm. Anybody can tell a joke. I can teach you how to tell a joke with timing and rhythm. But people are like, oh, that's a joke. If I go up and talk about myself and my family and my friends, more relatable. All day, every day. I talk about my cousin like a dog, my brother like a dog, my father like a dog. Everybody get the roof. The people can relate to that. Everybody's got a cousin. Like when I talk about my cousin, he keeps getting locked up. How do you keep getting locked up? You've been a drug dealer since 1999, and you still haven't came up. I can recall one time he got caught on a Monday and got caught by the same cop on a Wednesday. How you get caught by the same cop? You didn't see this guy coming? Caught on Monday by a cop and got caught on Wednesday by the same cop. What? I don't understand that. The stuff I talk about. And I tell him, I said, didn't you see that guy coming? Didn't you see him when the first time he locked you up? Didn't you see him? And stupidity.
So maybe they don't study cops like you study your jokes in your room. They're not doing the job.
I could not believe. And we get out, I crack jokes. I crack jokes on him. He did a 10-year bid, right? And then when he came home from jail, he would go in the bathroom with a knife and the door wide open. Door, you're not locked up anymore. So he was like institutionalized, but he was like still toilet, and he was looking like with a knife in his hand. If you walk by the door, he'd ready to stab you. But like a dog. And then one time he got locked up. One time, this is funny. When he got locked up one time, he ordered some Chinese food, and the Chinese man came in the lobby with the Chinese food, and he tried to rob the Chinese man with a gun with no bullets in it.
Oh my God.
The Chinese man said, you had no bullets. You had no bullets. Shoot, you had no bullets. So he's like, I'll shoot you, man. I'm going to shoot you. The Chinese man kicked the gun out of his hand, and he beat the crap out of my cousin. I mean, he beat the shit out of him. Left with the food.
Oh, wow.
Stupidity. And it's relatable. Everybody got a dumb cousin like that. You know, I had another cousin. We used to have Thanksgiving dinners, right? You know, first of all, when you come in the house, everybody's hiding shit. Everybody's hiding everything. Oh, hide everything. So he gets in the house. You know, you make him a plate. He's like, no, I'm not hungry. Wrap it up. I'll eat it later on. So he leaves, goes outside. 15 minutes later, he comes back. He's like, I'm still hungry. All right, we ate the first plate. Yeah, I ate it already. I ate it. Made him a second plate. He leaves, comes back 15 minutes later. Yo, I'm still hungry. So we made him a third plate. We look out the window. This nigga's outside selling plates of food. What the hell? Stupidity. But like I said, comedy comes from talking about family and friends. Family and friends always works.
And I can imagine your audience ate that up because that was funny. I'm trying to control myself just for the interview. All right. So my next question. Is there a Richard Pryor or a Red Fox joke, Dick Gregory, that is your favorite, your all-time favorite?
I try not to watch too many people from. I try not to watch too many comics because what have you start emulating them. You know, a lot of people have Richard Pryor mannerisms. They have Eddie Murphy mannerisms. That's from watching them over and over again. You don't you're doing it, but sometimes you get on stage and like, this guy's got Eddie Murphy mannerisms, or he has Richard Pryor's, you know, setups and punchlines. So I'll watch a little bit of it. My favorite comedian is Red Fox. He talks a joke about midgets. He said, "You hate midgets." He said, "I don't like them. They always sniffing your crotch." And he says something to that effect where it's disrespecting midgets, but it is hilarious. It is hilarious. But he goes over the top with that. Nowadays, you can't call them midgets. You got to call them little people.
I don't even, yeah.
Yeah,
I said something the other day and someone told me, they said, no, you can't. And almost everything I said one time, my son and his fiance came over and almost every word out of my mouth, they were like, you can't say that. I was like, get out my house. You got to go. I can't talk anymore.
People get so offended so quick. They get offended. Oh, especially the gay people. They will riot. They will pick at you. They will shut you down. Gay people.
So that's another question. How do you guys function? Because we, the Generation X, had trained ourselves, and I'm sure the baby boomers, to, I guess, allow the comedians to live, to breathe. They're going to say and do what they want to say and do. And if you can't handle the heat, then don't go in the kitchen. That's how we had trained ourselves. And now we're ready to come and laugh, and you guys are almost not silenced, but you're restricted. You're restricted.
Yeah.
So how do you function in a world like that?
You know, it's just so bad because comedy is supposed to be a reflection of who you are and your thoughts. And if I can't be who I am and convey how I feel on stage about a certain class of people, it's so limited. And like I said, I wish it was back in the day where everybody weren't so tight and so you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I applaud David Chappelle because he's at a level where he don't give a F. He's going to say what he's going to say. Yeah. You pick at him and all that. But as on my level, if I did that, I would get banned from all the comedy clubs in the world. But he's at a level where he can say that type of stuff.
But I noticed some of the jokes that he told and the way that he did it. I thought that, and I don't know if he did it overnight or if he thought about it, but I thought it was really creative because it was as if he spoke about them without speaking about them while speaking about them, and in a way that you could try to call him on it, but you'll probably have a vast amount of people that will shut you down because of the way that he went about doing it, if you know what I mean. That particular one that he did where I think he spoke about the gay people. And then at the end, he said something about one of his friends or something. He called one of his friends or he spoke to one of his friends who was gay or whatever. And then the friend said, you know, oh, like whatever, or F it. So then at that point, how could you get upset? And of course, I'm not doing him what he said, no justice, but how could you get upset when his own gay friend let him know, no, you're good, you're cool?
Yeah, but you have to do it in a clever way. Like you can't just come right out and say, "Oh, I hate gay people."
Mm-hmm.
You have to do it in a clever way where you can say it and people get the brunt of the joke.
Mm-hmm.
He was very, very good at that. His last special where he talked about the car, something like that. They're in a car and you got this group of people and that group of people, and he did it in a way. It wasn't offensive, but you had to really think about who he's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So
well, and also too, it was, in my opinion, he used their own definitions, the things that they say, and it reminded me of. I imagine when he was talking, I imagine the conversation afterwards being equivalent to, how come you guys, Black people, can say nigger, but we can't say nigger? I felt like that might be a way that it would have come back at him, you know. Okay, we can say this about ourselves, but you can't. I didn't even know about queer. I knew all I knew the acronym, but I didn't know what queer was. And when he explained it, I understood. And I asked some people who told me that they're like asexual or whatever. And they said, yeah, that's pretty much it. And so then I'm listening to other people get upset and saying that it's wrong. But the people who were those things were saying that's pretty much what I go through. And so I was like, so how do people knock that? Because he was smart at that, at what he did.
Mm-hmm.
So that was, I think it's nice to keep people on their toes, to make you guys have to work for our laugh the same way people work for their check. You know what I mean? So I think I don't have a problem with that. I just have a problem with restricting you, because when I come to see you guys, I want to crack up.
Yeah. And like I said, it's just so hard. I mean, back in the day, even in some of the TV shows that were relevant back in the day, it would never fly right now.
Mm-hmm.
Archie Bunker was a racist.
Mm-hmm.
Funny as all heck. This show is hilarious. He hated everybody, Jews, blacks, Koreans, and he did it in a way where people laughed at his stupidity about different cultures. Now that show, they would pick at that show, he wouldn't have a job. George Jefferson, another one, Jefferson, he hated white people, called them all kind of names. That show will not fly now too. It's like we have to laugh at stuff like that. We have to laugh at people insulting different races. It's comedy. You know, it's just the way a person thinks. You know, and like I said, them shows would never fly right now. And in this millennium, they would pick at that show. They would shut CBS down.
I was watching a meme. Actually, I reposted it. Louise on Jefferson.
Right.
And he says, this is in the beginning ones. He said something to her and she said, "Nigga, please." And I was like, oh, I didn't even remember that episode. But I just, it hit me so hard. I was like, oh, do you know which one I'm talking about?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
I was just like, and I was looking around, and because, you know, I was a kid in the 70s, even though I watched it, I'm sure I missed that one. But I was just like, yeah, wait a minute. I do remember them saying that and using the N-word. So I guess at some point in my head, I'm thinking somewhere along the line, Jesse Jackson or somebody must have stopped it, you know. And I guess that was the beginning of sensitizing, I guess.
And Red Fox had a show. He said the word also. They went in a courtroom. I think Lamont got a traffic ticket or something like that. And they went to the courtroom. There was a white cop. And the whole courtroom was nothing but black people. So Fred was like, "Don't you arrest black people? I mean, don't you give white people tickets?" He said, "I sure do." He said, "No, you don't. Look around you." Just enough in here to start a Tarzan movie. Well, again, the N-word was used though. Hilarious.
And I always thought it was kind of weird though, you know, because even during slavery, they said that the blacks would refer to each other as niggas because they were, I guess, kind of like, I won't say adopting, but it was the word that the master used. And so they were speaking to the slave as if to say, you know, master said, and then even after slavery, they just kept it in their language. So it's just interesting that they decided to cut it off of TV at that particular time and none before then. Okay, so when you tell someone you're a comedian, does it kind of scare them off? Like, are they concerned you're going to get up there and crack jokes, tell secrets?
Yeah, it does. But, you know, like the last girl I dated, I told her, if you do something stupid, I'm going to talk about it on stage. If you do something dumb, I'm going to talk about it on stage. So don't do nothing stupid.
See, that's why I didn't date a comedian. I had a guy who was interested. As soon as he said he was a comedian, that's why I asked the question. I shut it because I got flashes in my head, like a montage of Red Fox, especially Richard Pryor, because I don't think anybody threw women's dirt in the street like he did. I just started picturing different people, and I was like, nah, I can't.
I will talk about you. I definitely will. If you can't take a joke, you don't date a comedian. Bernie Mac, Cedric the Entertainer, these comedians didn't make it big till about the 25th year of them doing comedy. And Martin Lawrence actually tells a story about how he was about to quit when he got discovered for Def Jam. And that was 25 years in the game. So I tell comedians, you gotta just keep going, man. Somebody's gonna see you. Somebody's gonna recognize your talent. And a lot of guys quit. They just stop. And I don't understand that, because if you're doing comedy that long, why stop? You know, at any given moment, you might get discovered.
Can someone have a career of being a traveling stand-up comic?
Yes. Yes, they make great money too. They make great money. But like I said, you have to be established. You have to You have to be out here. And you have to also realize there's certain groups of people who will hire comedians. You have some corporate people who, right before a big meeting, they'll hire a comedian to do half an hour and pay you $2,000 just to make you laugh before a big corporate meeting. So, and there's also cruise ship comedians. You know, you go on these cruise ships and you make $2,500 for a weekend, which is great money. So, I mean, you can make a great living off being a stand-up comedian, but the only thing I tell people is that it's not consistent money. It's not consistent at all. I might make $2,000 in 1 week. Next week, I don't see nothing. Next week, I don't see nothing. So you have to really, really grind, get out here, and you have to make phone calls. It's a constant grind.
So you have to be your own manager?
Yes, that helps. A lot of times people will hire a manager or agent, which they'll find them gigs, and of course they get a percentage. But you can make phone calls yourself and cut the middleman out. When the pandemic hit, a lot of people lost cars, houses, and stuff like that because they relied strictly on comedy. And once the comedy was shut down, they had no other source of income. You know, I'm a New York City bus driver. I drive in the South Bronx, and I'll tell you right now, I'm so thankful that I had a job to help me along this pandemic. Because if you rely on straight comedy, I tell them, get a job, work a 9 to 5 and do comedy on the side. Because by the time you retire from your job, hopefully you'll be famous as a comedian. If not, when you retire, that'll be your retirement, to do comedy full time. I use Jamie Foxx as a prime example. You have got to be multi-talented. Jamie Foxx, he sings, he dances, he acts, and he tells jokes. You have to be multi-talented. Like when I go into an audition and I put on my resume, I'm an actor, a comedian, and a writer. They'll look at my application as opposed to somebody who's just an actor. They'll give me a shot first because I'm multi-talented. So the more talents you have, the better chance you have of making it. You know?
Speaking of double and triple threats, what do you think of those people or those comedians? What do you think of those comedians that did stand up? They started out doing stand up. They were hilarious. We all laughed and chuckled. And then they began acting and they stopped doing stand up. What is it that makes them, well, maybe I should ask, do they lose self-esteem from doing stand up? Because there have been a few actors like Eddie Murphy in an interview once said years ago that he would not do stand up. And when they asked him why, at the time, Damon Wayans was really big. And he said, have you seen Damon Wayans? He said, this cat is really funny. And so, and I've seen it with a few other actors who used to be stand-up comedians, or maybe they did both, but, you know, film took off or TV. What is it that makes them not want to turn to stand-up? Is it really that hard that, like, once you get off the bike, you can't ride it again?
Slowly, it takes years. Like, even when I don't do a show within a certain amount of time, the timing's off, your rhythm's off. You know, you're not as sharp as you used to be. Now, it's easy to transition from comedy to acting. Very easy. Some people can do it, some people can't do it. But when you get off that stage, if you don't do comedy for 6 months, when you get on stage, it shows. It shows. So it is so hard to leave comedy and come back to it. I did a show with Chris Tucker about 5 years ago. And he did all of, what do you call it? With Jackie Chan, he did all the moves with Jackie Chan. And he was trying to make a transition back to comedy. And I got off stage, you know, had a great routine, and I'm ready to leave the comedy club. And the host says, we have a special guest tonight, Chris Tucker. I'm like, oh, shoot, Chris Tucker. I sat down and I wanted to watch him because I haven't seen him since Def Jam. He was horrible. The only reason he didn't get booed is because he's Chris Tucker. Because I said, this guy is horrible. But like I said, when you leave comedy, it is so hard to come back because you lose your timing, your rhythm, you lose your chain of thought. Everything goes. It's like you got to start out fresh again. So Eddie Murphy, I don't think he might try to come back, but he's got to be on the road and in these comedy clubs for at least a year or two before he comes back out in the general public.
Well, this was years ago. This was when Damon Wayans had a stand-up comedy show. I don't know if it was HBO or what channel it was, but this was then. And so we talking way back.
Yeah.
And that's when Eddie Murphy hadn't done stand-up. And at that time, I think it may have just been a few years since he had done it. But he was like, no, he wouldn't, And then I've seen him say another time that, he was considering it, but then I never saw him do it. And I just always reflected back.
He would have to go on for like 2 or 3 years before he gets his rhythm, his timing. I mean, people think that we go up there, it's a whole regimen of stuff you have to learn with stand-up. You just don't go up and tell jokes. I mean, like I said earlier, you have to have premise, setup, punchline. You have to have rhythm, timing. You have to know what is called laugh pauses. Like when I tell a joke, people laugh, have to pause. Mm-hmm. Stop laughing before I tell the next joke. Mm-hmm. So there's certain things that you have to learn. It's an art to this. Yeah. And in order to do that, you have to be on stage constantly, consistently.
Okay. So down to the last few questions before I ask you some advice to help a newcomer. Who would you like to open for? You have to pick of the litter. Just tell us who you want, and we're going to set that up for you.
Who would I open up for? I like D.L. Hughley. I like his style. I wouldn't mind opening up for him. That'd be that'd be a gift in itself. Who else? And David Chappelle wouldn't fit my style of comedy because I get raw and raunchy at times, and he's more political and more. Probably D.L. Hughley would be good fit for me. D.L. Hughley would be a perfect fit for me.
Is that how they pick them? They line them up according to the styles. Do they ever mix and match? Like this one's maybe more of a joke teller in general, and then this one is more political. Do they ever mix and match them, or do they normally keep them in the same style?
Well, they normally mix and match them. They like to juggle them and mix them and match them. One of the things that is an unwritten rule that you don't want to have somebody funnier than you are. So I'm the last person. You don't want to hire somebody who's funnier than you because that makes you look bad. How some of these guys pick their openers up. They want them to be funny, but not too funny. And a prime example is a friend of mine. She used to open up for Cat Williams, and she got to the point where she was funnier than him opening up. So they pulled her off the tour because she was like, Cat should have been on first, and she should have been on last, and it makes the comedian look bad. But me, I'm the type that if you can't, how do you say it? I want you to be funny because that brings out my A game. If you go up there, you tear the audience up, and I'm like, oh wow, I gotta step up my game now. And a lot of comics don't want to step up to the plate and be like, okay, he's funny. Let me take it to the next level.
So that was likely a manager's call?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're too funny, they won't have you. Believe me. If I go in there and I tear up every show I do with D.L. Hughley, if I keep destroying it, he's going to like, take him off my tour, man. He's going too big.
Yeah.
Yeah. Funny, but not too funny.
Yeah. And so do you know that going in? Like, all right, let me turn it down a little bit. I heard his jokes. Jokes.
If you put me on that stage, I'm going to seek and destroy.
Gotcha.
Pull me back or not, it's on you, but I'm not going to tone my act down,
Yeah, because I'm thinking you keep the job, but then you're thinking, nope, I win the audience. I win the crowd.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to tone down my act. I'm going to be who I am. Why should I tone down my act to make you look good? I'm going to go up there. You give me a shot, I'm going to go up there. I'm going to destroy that place. And then you're going to say to me, well, you can't be I can't be on your tour. But I tell you what, if we ever want to show together where you have no discretion over that, and I go before you, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to make you bring your A game out.
That's good. So, do you hang out with any comedians? Any besties?
I'm like after the show, it's like work. They're your coworkers. I might have a glass of wine and mess around, but I'm in and out. Unless I'm merchandise like T-shirts, cups, or hats. You're my coworkers.
Is that typical?
What's that?
Is that typical for most comedians?
No, some comedians hang out together. They go out and stuff like that. But a lot of them do stuff that I don't do. Like, they smoke weed and they do all kind of other things. And I don't do that. So, I don't even want to be around it. So, like I'll maybe have a glass of wine and then I'll sell my merchandise and then I'm out.
All right. So now we are at this segment where I want to kind of give some value to some of the new kids on the block that are coming out in comedy. And I say new kids, but knowing that some people decide to get into comedy even at an older age. So what would you tell, I asked this, well, I didn't ask this question, but I'm going to add it later. What would you tell someone considering comedy? I'll just connect that with the answer you gave me earlier with some of the advice that you were given. The next one is, do you find stand-up lends to doing comedy shows or film?
Yes. One of the things that you can't be taught, and even acting, is improvisation. Improvisation is a very big comedy because sometimes you have to come up the top of the head. And sometimes in acting, you have to do the same thing. If your partner forgets their lines, you have to improv until they get back to the script, back on point. So, yeah.
Okay. What would you tell a novice comedian to stay away from in the game?
Groupies.
Wow.
Groupies. Leave alone. They're crazy. Leave them alone.
Really?
Do not mess with the groupies. No matter how good they look, they are absolutely insane. And also, if they're a groupie, 9 out of 10, they probably slept with another comedian before you. So leave them alone.
So don't wife them. Don't try to wife a groupie.
No way. And I have a story I tell that this is my early days of doing comedy. I met a groupie, we hung out, and we did the do. We grown folks, and I told her I want no relationship. I don't want no girl, and she was fine with it. So we did the do, and my next show, lo and behold, she's sitting in the front seat. Okay, all right, no problem. My next show, lo and behold, she's sitting in the front seat. Every show that I did, she was sitting in the front seat. So I leave the club one night, and I get home, and I'd hear a knock on my door at 2 a.m. So I'm like, who the heck is that? At this time, I'm staying with my mom's. And somebody's banging on the door. So my mother gets all like, who the hell is banging on the door like that? I'm like, I don't know. I figured the guy I rode with, maybe I left something in his car. I open the door, and this groupie is in the hallway. She's like, I love you. I can't live without you.
Wow.
She's trying to push her way through the apartment door. I'm like, if you don't get your body, I'll be struggling trying to push the door. My mother's like, she got up. She said, what the hell's going on? She grabs a baseball bat.
I guess, yeah.
And we push out the door, and we lock the door. This fool slept outside the door in the hallway. I got up to go to work the next morning, and she was outside the door in the hallway.
Wow.
I leave to go to work. She hops in the car and follows me to the bus stop. I get on the bus. She followed the bus to the train station. Only reason she couldn't follow me to work is because she was in a car. I ran down in the train station. Came home for work. She's sitting out in front of my house in a car.
How long did it take you to get rid of her?
Wow. About a week.
Oh my God.
So you better make a complaint because this broad's crazy. She was sitting out in front of my house, like literally sitting there.
Is there a lot of groupies in comedy?
Oh yeah. They're very easy. Especially on the road. Oh my God. They know you from out of town, and they will. I don't know how they find us out though, but they find out what hotel you stay in sometimes. How did you find out what hotel I'm staying in?
It's not hard. And I'm no groupie, but Whenever my uncle used to come to town, my uncle's George Clinton. When he would come to town, and I'm trying to reach out to family, and they're so busy doing whatever, and so I'm like, okay, they're probably gonna go to the hotel where he is. Let me figure out where he is. It's not hard. I don't even know how I figured it out, but from time to time, I will figure it out. I call about 2 or 3. By the third one, I was like, okay, yep, they're here. I can't even tell you. And this is before you could go on your computer and Google things. I'm talking like way back, probably like in the early 90s or something.
I just couldn't understand it. I was like, how the hell? And it's especially out of town. Out of town, it's very easy to sleep with a groupie. Very easy. If they know you funny, know you from out of town, and they give it up. And you have got to be careful out here. And I can't tell you the amount of comedians that we go on the road and come back off the weekend, and they go into the clinic to get a shot because they didn't use a condom. They want to get a shot. Like, dude, you didn't use a condom? Nah, man, you see how she look? Yeah, but you don't know you know what I mean? You have to be careful.
Everything that look good ain't good for you.
You guys be going to get penicillin shots. I'm like, man, look, I couldn't. I've always been safe as far as that because I don't know where you've been.
In addition to that, 10, 15, 20 years from now, you have a son knocking on your door saying, I just want to get to know you.
That's right. That's right.
Wow. I knew that was big for musicians. And I figured probably for comedians, I didn't know it was that deep, though.
What? Women love to laugh.
Yeah, but good grief.
You halfway in, you make them laugh.
Wow. So it's not just singers, because I heard if a singer sings, he can get up to his hotel room. It's not just the singing; it's the jokes too.
The jokes will get them.
Wow. Well, I know a few women that are in love with Martin Lawrence to that point. Yeah. Like even right now, I'll tease them and I'll joke with them because they were in love with him back then, like crazy in love, and now when they talk about him, I still see their eyes have that little star or that little sparkle in them. So I guess that is really a thing.
Yeah, we got something. And also, I would tell you, New Jacks still are right. Don't emulate anybody. Be yourself. A lot of these cats emulate like people who've done it before them. Be yourself. Right. And most importantly, the more time you get on stage, the better you get. And I would tell them to start with an open mic. Go to open mics. Go there and sit down, try to write something. Most of the time that you go on stage for the first time, they give you 5 minutes. You're not going to make 5 minutes. By the time you get 1 minute, it's going to seem like 5 minutes because you don't know what you're doing. But the main thing is don't steal. A lot of these guys steal jokes. Don't steal.
Oh man,
that is so ratchet to steal somebody else's joke. And
as a person from the audience. Especially when it comes to comedy, I got to tell you, I have been in the audience on 2 separate occasions where I've heard someone tell a joke that I know I heard someone on TV, a comedian on TV say, and I was baffled, like, wow. So I would second that from an audience member, from a fan of comedians, because we hear the jokes. Don't think that you're the only one that's watching these comedians tell these jokes. Wow.
Some of these guys they'll steal a joke from your dream. Give me that joke. You gotta give me that joke. But like I said, be yourself. Don't and a lot of these cats they watch these old Def Jams and they'll tell a joke and they'll try to add a word to make it sound different. Mm-hmm. We know the brunt of the joke though. Mm-hmm. You can't add or subtract from a joke that's already been done. I think that's so whack, man.
Mm-hmm. So I have a compare and contrast little session I want to do with you. You have 3 seconds to answer, and I'm going to have you compare some comedians, and you tell me, you just pick their name. I'll say their name, this person or that person, and then you will tell me the person you think is the funniest. Ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Now I tried to pair these up to make it difficult, but we'll see how you do. Chris Rock or Chris Tucker?
Chris Rock. Why? Because Chris Rock is he has more stage presence. He has more relatable jokes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Chris Tucker would make me laugh, but it was because he was silly. Chris Rock makes me laugh, but he touched. But I mean, granted, it wasn't the best comparison, but they were to me equivalent in how they made me laugh. So that's why. And I wanted you to look at, of course, Chris Tucker when he was in his prime, when he was at the top of his game. And
I'm gonna throw something else at you real quick. Chris Tucker was the master of what we call a 7 to 10 minute routine. You know, he recently came out with a special, but prior to that, he had no more than 7 to 10 minutes of funny. I mean, that's from my analogy of watching him.
Is that a good thing or a not so good thing?
It's good if you're trying to get, like he did, movie deals and commercials and stuff. That's great, 7 to 10 minutes. But if somebody comes to you and say, well, listen, I need you to do me a half-hour special, and you're not able to be funny for half an hour, it serves no purpose. So if you watch all those Def Jams, it was 7 to 10 minutes. And he blew up from that. But you never seen him do a special. He recently came out with a special. But back then, all he had was 7 to 10 minutes. That's it.
I got to check out a special. I haven't seen it.
You check out a special. I think he did pretty well. He did pretty good. But prior to that, he didn't have no special. Never did, what do you call it? Comedy Central. Didn't do nothing else but did the 7. He did 3 good shows on Def Jam. He mastered that 7 to 10 minute routine. After 10 minutes, nothing else left.
Is that a thing? Are there people who just do that just to go on those type of shows?
See, the way I was taught, that's what you want to do. Because the TV, like these specials, they have 3 or 4 comedians. You only get 7 to 10 minutes. You know, you have to master that 7 to 10 minutes. That's for TV. However, a lot of cats were doing these TV shows 7 to 10 minutes, and people were calling them to do shows requiring them to do 30 to 40 minutes, and they didn't have it. And a lot of them were not doing too well because they only had 7 to 10 minutes, which is the amount of time to give you on TV. Well, unless you have a special, of course.
All right, next up, Dave Chappelle or Bernie Mac?
Woo, that's a tough one there.
Yeah, I did that on purpose.
I think Bernie Mac, because he talks about family and he talks about, family. Dave Chappelle's, he's good also, but like I said, I like Bernie Mac because he talks about family, like his sister's kids. He talks about, that's more relatable.
I like them both. I don't know. I actually gave him a tie, but if I was forced to choose, and this is, during both of their prime, although Dave Chappelle for me is always in his prime, he just outdoes himself. I kind of would, at this age, I would have to lean towards Dave Chappelle, but I can't say that when I was younger, I would have gone for Bernie Mac for the same reason that you just said, those relatable reasons. But in today's climate and all the things that's going on, you mature, and the things that Dave jokes about and how he makes light of subjects that are like, kind of annoying or that are kind of turmoil or turbulent. Sometimes you need that, at least that's where I am now. So, yeah. Okay. I think this is another hard one. Let's see what you say. Martin Lawrence or Cat Williams? In their prime.
Wow, that's a tough one there.
It is.
I'd have to go with Cat. I'd go with Cat. He's more like a character. Yeah, I would say Cat Williams.
And it's so weird because, and I agree with you, but here's the reason why. It's that same thing I said about Dave Chappelle. If you ask me today, I'm going to say Cat Williams. But back in the day, I was a little younger and I probably was a little lighter mentally as far as goings on. And I might have said Martin, because Martin would have been silly and just being a simpleton, on stage. And I was for that. But, with age comes maturity. And I think, at least speaking for myself, your taste kind of changes because of what's happening. Right. And you look at Cat Williams when he's on stage, like sometimes I go back between Dave Chappelle and Cat Williams and even Chris Rock, I will sometimes just go back and just watch their stuff. Just, because, again, what's going on today? And I need a laugh because this crap is sad and makes you want to cry. So I'll watch them to make light of it. Does that ring true to you, for you also?
Yeah, it does.
All right. So I don't know if this next one is going to be hard for you or not, but I thought it was a good matchup. D.L. Hughley or Bill Bellamy?
DL.
Okay.
Big fan of DL.
All right.
I've actually done stuff with Bill Bellamy. He's more. He has his target audience though. He's good with the ladies because he's a good looking dude and. Huh?
People always say that. They always say, well, Bill got it because of his looks. And if I'm not mistaken, I don't know if it was DL or if it was one of the other comedians, but I know it was a Def Jam comedian. They said, or maybe it was Martin Lawrence, I think, when he was introducing him, either a second or third time that Bill was on there, and he cracked a joke about, him being good looking or something. But it was that I hear that a lot about Bill Bellamy, like, oh, you guys like him because he's the ladies like him because he's good looking or whatever. But he actually is funny. Yeah. Like he cracks me up.
Yeah, to some extent. But like I said, women look at that like he's an attractive dude. He looks good.
And you know why I put them two together? Because they used to bust out those suits. Even before Bernie put on a suit, when I didn't see Cedric Entertainer in a suit, Bill Bellamy and D.L. Hughley used to come out in those suits.
Absolutely. That's right.
And they would kill it. And they were so silly. Like, I didn't see D.L. Hughley being as silly, but he was still funny. But Bill Bellamy would start off in a way, it reminded me of like Richard Pryor to some degree. He would start off in a way and you begin to laugh, but then you think it's going to be a little laugh, but then he does something silly and you end up cracking up laughing. Like when he did he was talking about somebody and he imitated that, that outside the car salesman places, they have the real tall, big balloon that blows and it looks like a person. And Bill started doing you just thought it was going to be a regular joke. And then he started imitating that and it just made you crack up laughing. So I don't know. Those two I had as a tie. I don't know if I could break that one. But you're going with DL?
Yeah.
All right. All right. Now this next one is not hard for me. Let's see about you. Cedric the Entertainer or Steve Harvey?
Oh. Cedric.
Yeah.
Yeah, I go with Cedric.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I like Steve Harvey.
This is my personal opinion.
Yeah. And I concur. All right. So that's it for me. I want to thank you for coming on. Why don't you tell everybody what you got going on?
Okay. Presently, I'm in a web series called Bum Rush. We actually have season number 3. I have a recurring character called OD Schemo. Actually, my episode's coming up, should be in another week or so, on season number 3, episode number 8. I'm presently writing a book. I'm trying to do my special. I was booked to do the Apollo Theater April Fool's Day, but unfortunately the pandemic came and that slowed that down. I was going to do a documentary of my 25 years of comedy from Hollis, Queens. Rented a limousine. I had a camera crew. We were going to drive through Hollis, Queens, and go by all the famous people from Hollis, Queens. Which include Fubu, LL, Renda OC, Ja Rule, all from my neighborhood. And it was going to be like a limousine going through the neighborhood, and me telling, well, this is where Fubu lived, and and then go to like Run DMC house. This is where Run house is, Jam at the J house. And then leading up to me going to the Apollo Theater and doing my actual show. But we had to put that on hiatus because of the pandemic. But I'm in a couple of another web series called, it's called, well, boy, it's been a while since we shot this. It's called, I can't think of the name right now. It's been that long. One of Cousins is supposed to be coming out shortly, but I don't know what happened with that. It's still on the chopping block. Another one is called Stories of New York, The Hit. That's out. I'm in episode number 5. And just doing comedy and just trying to make it big. Hopefully, when everything open up, I'll be back at the Apollo Theater. Okay.
You've got hits.
Oh, yeah, hits, of course. That's also up in the air. We have to find out what's going on with that, but hopefully that'll go through. I had a nice time with that.
I'm pitching that. Somebody
call me to do some more work with them. Hopefully,
of course. We're going to be doing some flashbacks. So of course, because we won't tell what happens to your character. But actually, I've been pitching like crazy. And actually I had a few takers, but some of them were just starting out. And so that, I didn't want that, not for the hard work we've done. And then I recently had a talk with someone from Netflix, and my agent has pitched to Netflix at least 4 times. So it was so nice to finally meet the person that runs it, and they gave me some advice. So we'll see what happens with that. So yeah, Hits is coming. You did a really good job with Hits too. You bought it. And what I loved about you in Hits is that when you just weren't afraid to get into it. Sometimes when you act with people and it's a gritty scene where there's going to be some fighting or something like that, they get nervous, even in rehearsing it. But you were just like, no, do it, do your thing, And I love that because, of course, everybody's being professional and being careful and everything. But I just love that you were just ready to just dive in and you weren't like afraid or nervous about, getting hit the wrong way or whatever. So, and your acting was good too. And one thing I love about comedians, and I will say this. I find that comedians make some of the best actors because you guys, I guess you allow yourselves to be vulnerable, to get up on stage in front of people, to tell the jokes and to bring it. And then when it's time for you to act in front of the camera, you get that same energy and you bring it. And I believe that that's the reason why Jamie was so successful in Ray. Because he allowed himself to be vulnerable. And I believe it started from him being a comedian. So I literally commend comedians. Now, don't get me wrong. When we were in school and everybody was acting up and they would say, oh, what are you, an unemployed comedian? Or what are you going to be a comedian when you grow up? I was like, oh, God, because you really start to wonder because the person is just that funny. But then to turn around and see you guys, professionally be comedians, my hat's off to you guys. I think that you deserve more kudos than you probably get.
Thank you. The ironic thing is, I started acting before comedy.
Wow.
I actually took up acting in college, and I was taught Shakespeare. And if you can do Shakespeare, you can do anything.
Mm-hmm.
I tell you. And I actually started out as an actor before I started doing comedy.
Well, that's probably why, because I noticed even when I see you in Bum Rush. And I saw you, I think something else that I can't remember right now, but I noticed that, your skills are up there. So I can see that you didn't just like roll out of bed and say, hey, put me in your flick. You know what I mean? I could tell that there was some kind of training or something that's there. And I just know as a casting director, as a producer, director, you just know talent when you see it. And I saw that in you. So like I said, I appreciate you. And I'm glad you came on. You're one of my first interviews actually, and you're one of the first people that I called too, because I was like, I need somebody who was always making themselves seen, known, and present. Like I see you on social media, you'll pop up. If we don't talk, every couple of months you'll pop up, hey, what's up? Or you make yourself present. And I was like, that I want him, and I'm glad to have you on the podcast. You definitely got to come back.
Thank you for having me.
Tell them your social media and how they can keep in touch and find you.
Yes, on Facebook it's Derrick OC Reid. That's DERRICK OC space REID on Facebook. On Instagram, that's DEE_Red2001. And on Twitter, it is OC the Bus Driver.
Gotcha.
And that's when I drive a bus in the South Bronx. And y'all better leave me alone too, because I crack jokes on the bus. I get on that microphone, crack jokes. I step behind a white line. Somebody didn't use deodorant today, so your right guard to the left. Please step up.
Too funny. Listen, I want you to come back and co-host the show with me one day.
Absolutely. Just give me a time and date. I'm there.
All right, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Derrick OC Reid, the Bus Driver.
You've been listening to I'm Just Saying with Andrea and friends. If you enjoyed today's show, be sure to share, because sharing is caring. Like, comment. Also, if you never want to miss an episode, subscribe, baby.